Girls Who Invest is a nonprofit that I founded, which is an organization designed to empower, educate, and inspire young women to pursue a career in asset management.
Girls Who Invest is a 10-week program, so we do 4 weeks at either the University of Pennsylvania or Notre Dame. And during those 4 weeks, it's like a crash course on finance.
Doesn't matter if you come from a non-finance background like me, and then they send you out into the world to apply what you learn in an internship setting.
Hi, my name is Chenjie Candy Zhao. I am a Columbia student majoring in economics and art history. And this past summer, I was lucky enough to be selected as one of the 100 girls who attended the Girls Who Invest summer intensive program. Being Asian, being a girl, being not from this big city, not growing up in this big city, but from a rural, more suburban area, it's definitely different. And I got to meet so many different people and realized that we are actually not that different. I realized that they are facing the same problems, such as difficulty of finding what they're passionate about. For me, I don't feel like I am in that big of a disadvantage because I'm facing the same problems that everyone is facing. Programs such as Girls Who Invest are very, very important and significant for girls like me because we never had exposure into this field before. It's difficult for me at the beginning to find a community, but once I found the community, I realized I belong and it's good, yeah.
The finance industry is very network oriented, so then, during normal courses of conversation, people between companies, they will talk about Girls Who Invest and, how they can recruit more women.
The funny thing about this industry is there are studies that show that you, like across the board, that you will generate higher returns with gender diverse teams. And, I think people in this industry are focused on the bottom line. So to continue to have all male teams, it's not good for business. And hopefully, if it doesn't resonate that you're doing the right thing, because we should have gender diversity, hopefully it'll resonate that you're gonna, make those better returns.
As I was researching for the program and understanding what asset management industry looks like, I found out that there's single-digit percentage of women in management role, and that statistics really shocked me. I guess I know that it's very male-dominated, but I don't think that it's impossible for a female to tackle. Because the scarcity of women in this field, when she walked into a room, she gets noticed. And if she does well, people want her back.
Hi, I'm Carol, and welcome to Table Talk. We have a very special guest in the studio today. Janet, can you tell us a little bit about the program?
Sure. So Girls Who Invest is a program that aims to get more women into asset management, so actually managing money, which is where the power is.
Right.
And we have targeted right now, it's mostly a U.S. domestic program. So it's women studying at U.S. colleges and universities, and we are particularly interested in sophomores because our program marries 4 weeks of academic and technical training with a 6-week internship at financial asset management firms.
Right.
And the firms range from a Goldman Sachs to a Vista Private Equity, PIMCO, so big global names that you'd know.
Right. So why bring girls in sophomore years to the space? Why do you think it's important to introduce them to this internship education program?
Sure. Well, so finance is a craft and apprenticeship industry. You sort of have to learn some of the technicalities of accounting and different financial modeling skills to succeed in the industry. And you tend to need to know that pretty early, and to get these apprenticeships and these internships early. It's hard to shift into it when you're 25.
It's too late for me.
Yeah.
Sadly.
So we're trying to get women when they're like 19 and they have time to, one, get the internship and then take the courses while they're still an undergraduate, have the ability to participate in undergraduate interviewing and all of the access they have to these firms at that age.
Right. And I understand you guys don't just take girls with majors in finance-related program. It's girls from all different programs who have interest in investment space, in the investment
That's
space.
right. I mean, there's a lot of English majors or philosophy majors who may be able to think right brain and left brain, and we clearly look at their grades and their test scores to make sure they have the academic talent to do the program, but we don't discriminate against, all majors are welcome.
Right. I was talking to some of the participants, and they don't necessarily major in finance-related programs, but they do have interest in the investment world, which can be very male-dominated. And from their personal experience, having this program, being with the same group of girls for at least, I think they're together for at least 4 weeks in the school program. And for them, it was a great experience not to only learn the intellectual, the academic side of investment. Also, they formed this bond with the girls who participate in the program. Do you think that would be important for them to build a network at such young age, going into an area that they might want to pursue in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the stories we told about the bonding was we pick a stock to analyze for the academic, and we have a team of the young women work in teams to value the stock. And one of the stocks was McDonald's. So they all found out that McDonald's does delivery now. So every night they were up in the common room in the dorm eating McDonald's. Anyway, so that was part of the bonding. But the relationships are super important in finance, because to get deals, let's say you're an investment banker. I mean, it's knowing people in an industry or being referred deals and having a network of people. I think, for women, that's part of the reason why they have a hard time moving up and managing at the most senior levels of finance, is because a lot of women and a lot of the network dissipates over time. So having a network of support early that you can lean on when you have questions or just a bad day, and then also, hopefully, as you all stay in the industry, people you can do deals with, they're running an asset management firm, you're making decisions, you decide to invest with their firm. Right, right.
And I was also recently at a report announcement. I think it was a report done by PwC. They were basically analyzing people who have money, like what do they look like. It's changing every year, and now there are a lot of younger self-made billionaires, and you can also see a big shift of people who have money. They're women now, and they're saying that for asset management, most of the time you see people on a more senior role. They're white, they're older, and that's because originally these are the people who have money, and they want to invest with someone who they think look like them.
Right.
Do you think now there's more and more demand for female in the space because there are more and more female self-made millionaire, billionaire in the space?
Well, I think there's definitely an interest in hiring more women. I think part of that is the customer who says, I want more women, like women who want to manage money want to go talk to another woman, not just some guy that may not treat them with respect.
Right.
So part of it is a customer demand. Other customers, like big pensions, who say, look, our pensioners are very diverse, and you guys aren't diverse, so we want to see more diversity at the table when you come talk to us.
Right.
So there's sort of demands that drive for more women. And then I think I think the stereotypes are the same. People don't tend to see a young woman and think she's a billionaire, right? Or that young woman could go manage my money.
Right.
So I think that just is taking time to have those role models out there and start breaking down the sort of stereotypes of what kinds of people manage money. We're actually going to create mirrors, like, little compact cosmetic mirrors that say this is what an investor looks like, so that you just start breaking down those stereotypes, even for the women themselves.
Right, right. And I was talking to, I think, Deborah. She runs the program, and she was saying that when the program first started, it wasn't hard, but they have to really go out there to find companies who want to work with the program and provide internship. But now you guys have a lot of companies that's waiting to get onto the program. Why do you think that is?
Well, part is they see that really good firms are partnering with us, and they say, hey, this is a list I want to be on. How can I not be on that list if JP Morgan's on the list or Goldman's on the list? So part of it's that, and then part is you have a track record. You know, in your first year, when you start out, people aren't sure, is this for real? Is it fake? After 3 years, and they see the quality of the students, they see the quality of the firms, they start to believe, okay, now I'll come in.
So now, do you know how many companies that's waiting to be?
Yeah, so just this year, we've added 35 new financial partner firms.
Wow.
And some of them are, say, college endowments, like we just added Harvard's endowment this year.
Wow.
We added some, like TPG, which is a big private equity firm. We added a bunch of firms in Chicago. So, yeah, 35 new firms this year.
And how many? I know the program's expanding every year.
Yeah.
Initially, I think maybe like 30 to 40 students you guys were accepting. And how many are you guys accepting
So
this
next
year?
summer, we'll have 150 on the on-campus program. And we also do online learning.
Right.
We partner with the Wharton School of Business. They have an online modeling program, which is if there's a skill set you want to know to go into investment beyond accounting, and knowing Excel and knowing modeling are both really good skills that we hear from our partners. That's what they really want. So we have an online modeling program for young women who may not be able to participate in the on-campus.
So 150, that's a lot. But the selection process is actually pretty, you guys are really selective.
We are. We just this morning, we have, this year we'll have over 3,000 applications.
Wow.
Yeah, so we'll see if everybody completes them, but we've had 3,000 people start applications.
So it's like less than 10%.
Yeah,
the chance
so
of you getting...
the early admissions was about a 10-to-1 acceptance ratio.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do they, I guess, increase their chance of getting into the program?
Well, one is obviously doing well on the test scores. We do weight the essays. So the girlswhoinvest.org, there's an application up there, so you can still apply. The deadline's the end of the month. But being thoughtful about your essay, we ask things like, what are big challenges you've overcome? Who are your role models? And some women have obviously put a lot of time and energy into writing pretty amazing essays.
Right, so you guys actually spend time to read through, well, if all 3,000 of them applied, then someone needs to read through all 3,000 essays.
That's right.
That's a lot of work.
We actually hire professional college application readers to help us run through the first round reading, because it's gotten to be too big.
Right.
Yeah.
It's great to hear this program is growing and growing.
Yeah.
Where do you see this program go in like 5 years?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would love to do a program in Singapore or Hong Kong. We have so many talented young women from East Asia, and we can't always accommodate women who don't have work visas here in the United States. As you know, this is getting more and more difficult.
Right.
Another market that is very attractive is the UK and London, obviously a huge financial center.
Right.
And they have new laws and regulations of disclosure where banks and financial services firms have to say, how many women work here? What is women's pay versus men's pay? And so we've had a lot of requests from big partners saying, do you take interns in London? And we've done internships in London, but it would be better to recruit women from the UK or Europe or elsewhere, who could work there. So I could see that happening sooner rather than later.
Right.
Yep.
So it's going in the very right path, and it's progressing really fast.
Yeah.
Is it faster than your expectation?
It's in some ways. Yeah, I think it's there's a huge momentum right now on the program, and I do think asset management is global. So we've thought about maybe it'll be global women investors on top of Girls Who Invest.
Right.
Yep.
Maybe in 5 years that would you change that.
Right. Change the name.
And we want to talk a little bit more on your personal experience with, I guess, in the space of investment. Can you tell us why you are passionate about this program and how did you get into it?
Yeah, well, my very first job in the investment business was in Hong Kong.
Oh, wow.
And that's because, so I studied Chinese, which I told you, and I studied at Penn, but I studied at Nanjing Daxue back in the late 80s. And then my first job was in Hong Kong with Hong Kong Shanghai Bank, analyzing stocks. And at that time, of course, it was mostly Southeast Asia market. Chinese market and stocks was not even around.
No, it wasn't that relevant.
So that was my first exposure. And I definitely think it's a very powerful industry, right? Money is important in this world. It's not everything, but it's a tool. And knowing how to grow money and invest money is super important.
Right.
And I got my first exposure in Hong Kong.
And what was the space like? Me just imagining, especially in Asia, the status of women is a little lower there, me coming from Taiwan. So I just wonder if that would be a very intimidating space for a young female to enter.
Well, as you know, the sort of labor laws in Asia are also not quite what they are in the United States. So I was very shocked when I went there that people could advertise for jobs and say, I would like an attractive young female for this position. It's like, oh, wow, like that would be illegal here. Not to say that the practice might not, it just wouldn't be as obvious. So that was, I think there was also, sometimes confusion as to were you actually a stock analyst or were you there to be entertaining and sort of, social. And sometimes clients got confused about that. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely difficulties of being a female even then, right? And like you say, you're young and you walk in the coffee room and they all think you're the, the secretary. Not that there aren't, anything wrong with being a secretary, but you're trying
to assume that,
to have credibility as a financial analyst. And people always assume the,
Does that get easier when you becoming more and more senior in the space, or do you feel like you become more of an outlier in the group?
It's amazing how long it goes on, because you talk to even senior women in the space, and they're constantly being assumed that they are not who they are, that they don't know what they're talking about, that even if you're, 15 years older than the guy standing next to you, they look at the guy. So it's amazing, and that's across, all races, all continents. It just tends to be that you discount what women know.
And also, I think some of your colleagues mentioned that female enter the investment or banking space, and the percentage of them staying in the industry is a lot lower than guys. Do you feel like companies now, they're putting more effort into making the environment more friendly towards female employees, or do you think that's something that you still need to struggle for?
I think people want to, but it depends on how badly do they want to, and is there a level of will they give up a certain level of comfort, right? I mean, to some extent, when you've worked with Bob and you just want Bob to be, your number two, and you don't take a risk that maybe somebody you don't know as well, or somebody who's a little different from you, who may have a good skill set, but it isn't as comfortable. And I think those are the kinds of decisions that are lots of little decisions that add up to a non-diverse, workforce. So I think people say they want to, but whether they actually take the actions to truly build a diverse workforce, that's still harder said than done.
But I think now with the Me Too and everything, even though they don't necessarily want to, they are given the pressure.
There's more pressure.
So I think this is definitely a time to I'm sure this program is kind of like catching that wave of workspace want to be more diverse, especially for banking and investment.
And the easiest part is the pipeline coming in at the beginning. You can definitely hire more women. I think the harder part of the equation will be changing the culture so that these women stay and feel successful.
I was talking to Candy the other day. It was just fun talking to someone who's so young and so passionate about what they want to do. She obviously, I was trying to get her perception of working in a place like Goldman. I'm imagining it would be very intimidating, but she's just like, no, I enjoy everything, and everyone's so supportive, and there are a lot of a role model, female role model for me to look up to. So I think maybe it's changing slightly, just that maybe I'm just not really aware of that yet. But I think for the younger generation, I think that they're definitely feeling more comfortable.
I think things have changed for the better from when I started back in the early 90s. One would hope, but still a long way to go. But I think a lot of young women have great experiences at the firms they're going to.
And you mentioned that you might want to expand the program to Singapore and Hong Kong. What was your experience like working in that Hong Kong bank?
Well, I mean, I love the energy of Hong Kong. I love the, there's just so much activity and ambition. So I really enjoyed just being there and living there, and Southeast Asia. So I went to Taiwan. I spent a summer in Taiwan, and Indonesia. I lived in Indonesia for a year. And obviously, it's become a very important place for asset management. You know, Hong Kong, even when I was there, a lot of the Western banks were moving their desks there, and Hong Kong Shanghai Bank was setting up more of an institutional research for stock. And now, of course, there's so many different Asian firms and just international global institutions that are very important markets.
Right. And when I was talking to Candy, I was also asking her what she feels about being in the States. We're still minority, being Asian. And she being female and being Asian, I wonder if that's a lot of pressure on her. But if we flip it over, it can be she has the best of both worlds, being able to speak another language, that might work in her advantage.
Yep.
Do you think that's true?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, in particular, I said there's so many work opportunities in Asia, and being able to sort of function in both environments equally well. Yeah, sky's the limit for somebody like Candy.
And hopefully in 5 years, we'll be able to expand the program to Asia so a lot of Asian women can be able to join this program.
Yeah.
So the deadline is?
November 29th. So as you're eating your turkey this year, if you want to, you know, so girlswhoinvest.org, the application's there. You do need some recommendations and a transcript, but I mean, if you can get the whole thing started and submitted, you know, if it takes a little longer to get a recommendation, that's okay. We can start reading and.
Right, but the essay is very important.
Right.
Jenna might not be the one who's reading your essay, but someone is going to read through every word.
Yeah, for the finalist, I do read.
You do?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's going to be 150 of them that you're reading.
Yeah, well, we'll read. We'll probably have we had an early decision, so we've already accepted 29.
Wow.
And then we'll have another 121 to go. So I'll definitely be reading 120. Yeah.
Something that you need to do after Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
so.
right.
So if you want to get onto the program, have your essay ready and your recommendations ready, and get on the wave of Girls Who Invest.
Yeah, thank you.